Hi, and welcome back. I'm Emily Benson, host of the Boost Your Boutique podcast. And today I'm going to introduce you to someone who is not only moving the plus size fashion space forward, she's also showing us how to lead with heart, style, and strategy. Tracy Christian is the founder of Sante Grace. Her background is in the entertainment industry, but that's the cool part, is that being in the entertainment industry as a plus size woman, she found out she had nothing to wear ever to like the Oscars. Turns out other women had this problem too. So she set out to create style for plus size women that look chic. In today's conversation, we're going to dive deep into how she started, what really was the motivation behind starting her own clothing brand, and some of the hurdles she's faced creating a brand that's inclusive of a lot of different body shapes. If you're a boutique owner, a brand builder, or someone who cares about getting into the plus size fashion space, this episode is for you. So let's dive in.
Here's the thing. I want to talk about you and talk about what you've been doing in LA, because I think, number one, more people need to understand that there are amazing women like you out there trying to change the status quo for clothing, fashion in general, like boutique owners. I mean, I think it's like sort of across the spectrum. But I would say that like for you, more than other people I've ever met, you really developed Sante Grace out of your need. Not just like, oh, I want to have nice clothes. You were like, I literally am wearing paper bags right now. Like, what is going on? There is actually nothing for me. Like, how many years do you feel like you spent just being like, are you joking? So frustrated.
More than 10 years, more than a decade.
It's a long time. I mean, where were you even shopping for clothes, or were you not? You were really trying to make your own clothes from the beginning.
So Bloomingdale's, I had a hodgepodge, right? I make a gumbo, an Irish stew, if you will. So you could always get, like, Lane Bryant was always reliable for undies. And then I would go to Spanx for leggings. They had really good leggings there. They came in a 2X, 3X that fit well. And then ASOS, you could get like a derivation of whatever was in style at the moment, like a watered down.
Yeah, right. I feel like ASOS is the one that you could really, that's where I knew I could always get fashion-y clothes.
Yes.
Was ASOS.
And
for a while.
I shopped so much at ASOS. A weird thing happened. Like I met a friend who had some kind of executive position there. I shopped so much at ASOS, I had an automatic discount at ASOS.
That's actually wild.
Yes. So ASOS, Bloomingdales.com. Then I would buy handbags at Barney's. And yeah, so that was pretty much and then look, it's Los Angeles, right? LA gets hot. So there's a very fast fashion store called Rainbow. So during the summer, sundresses, I would buy sundresses at Rainbow because, you know, those didn't need to be
Rainbow.
Designers or whatever. I knew I could like zhuzh them up.
Yeah.
It was horrible. It was horrible.
I mean, I remember shopping at Rainbow in New York, and you could just get some stuff for like $15, $10. I mean, it was really very much like discount pricing, but also not the best clothes. I mean, I feel like it was where you went for like your night out random shirt you needed.
Right now,
not anything that was worth keeping.
No, and nothing lasted. Just entering this conversation with you, I'm not manifesting it, but I'm crying. Like that, it was horrible. It was horrible. You know, being a young person and being in business, you model who your boss is. You're like, okay, that's success. That's the district manager or whatever, right? I could never I was never going to be successful because I could never look like that person. It didn't matter.
That's so frustrating.
Right.
That's so like demoralizing too, honestly, too.
It didn't matter how much I made, how well I produced. And I think probably in every business or every office, certain things become in style, right? So in my industry, I remember we all had our never full bags, or we had I forget if it was Balenciaga, the city bag or whatever it was.
There was a Balenciaga bag. I feel like there was a Marc Jacobs bag at one
Yes.
point that was like that big hobo tote
Yes.
that everyone had.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, we ran in the same level of people where it's like fashion, music, art, kind of, all in the same. Yeah. I mean, I like it. I like in your story, when you tell your story, talking about how you were interviewing and you said, please stop calling me back for more interviews. It's obviously before like Zoom interviews, but you were like, I have no more suits left. Like, I don't have more to wear. So please stop interviewing me. I'm like, it was a joke.
No.
But
That was UTA.
you were honest.
One of the biggest agencies in the world. Okay. My little Black girl self from the projects of Newark, New Jersey. I have worked hard. I've done all the things. And now I'm meeting with the partners at UTA about them bringing me aboard as an agent, and literally had to say to them, yeah. And this was before Zoom. So I'm walking in a room. You guys are going to have to stop calling me in for interviews. If there's another partner that wants to meet me, they should come in because I'm out of suits. I'm out. Gone. No more. There's no more.
I mean, that's the honest. No, well, and that's the honest truth of being a plus size woman, especially 10 years ago, 20 years ago.
Yeah,
that was the truth of it, is there was
18, 20.
Right. Not even a 30 or a 32. No, like,
we're not talking
fairly
now
average.
I'm like 28, 30. Now I'm like a 4X, 5X,
right.
Whatever. No. I was a 2X, 3X. No more. Like this is it. This is all you get. This is all you get.
Yeah. I mean, I think that at the end of the day, the fact that the opportunities in your life are limited because of the access to clothing you have is pretty wild to think about. I mean, we know that there's obviously like ways that people will get marginalized out of certain places and jobs. But to think that like you don't have the clothes to wear for the job, that is not like women need to wear suits in lots of jobs. Like, it's not even just in being an agent. But I think for you, that trauma, and I'll call it trauma because it is, that trauma, you've taken that and made you're trying to make a different future for women coming up behind you. And I think that's where you're like, you know what, I'm going to take this pain and like turn it into something.
It was so bad. Occasionally you'll put a client on a new television series or on a feature film, and you can go visit your client. Like, oh, they're shooting, the new Godzilla movie in New Zealand. Sure. And that client is making, hundreds of thousands of dollars for the agency. Okay. Yeah. You go visit them. Yes. Go visit them. And I would be dreading it. What am I going to wear? Right? I've got to wear something where, number one, my client feels like, oh yeah, that's my agent. Let me introduce my agent to everyone. She looks professional and stylish and comfortable in her own skin and all of that. Number two, oh dear God, the weather is warm. How am I gonna, do all of that? And I can't, right? I can't let, oh my God, there are going to be other agents and managers there. They're all going to be wearing XYZ, right? That to a degree people recognize, and they're going to look put together and tucked in. And I'm going to be wearing my sundress from Rainbow. Is that what I'm wearing?
Right.
And
probably, yeah.
Right. And
that's not good.
And I don't care what people say. We respond. Like before you know anybody, you're walking down the street, you see the person and you have a response. Is this scary? Does this person look scary to me? Do they, right? What do I recognize?
Yeah.
Right. And
does this person look respectable?
Yes.
Does this person look like
level?
An agent or a manager who's doing millions dollar
Is
deals?
This person my equal?
Is this a deal maker dressed in a rainbow sundress?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I knew I'm better than this. I don't want to lose out on opportunities simply because I don't look the part. Right. Yeah. And I'd already kind of created a character for myself. Like, I'm I'm different. Everybody else is wearing a suit. I'm wearing a leather jacket. I'm downtown. But at a certain point, you just got to elevate. And then age too. When you're in your 20s, early 30s, whatever, people know that you're working hard. You have a lot of money, whatever. I'm at a certain point where, come on, girl. If you want me to stay with you, if you want me to do business with you, get it together. Walk the walk, talk the talk, look the part. It just is what it is. If you can't get your own life together and your own look together, what makes me think that you could do that for me? Harvey Weinstein always looked like, a pig and whatever, but he was wearing Brioni. It does matter.
Right. Yeah. I want to transition into okay, so all of this really made you so aware of what was available in the marketplace, what wasn't available. And you were in LA. So at what point did you, become aware of what the opportunity was in LA to either work with a small seamstress or at what point were you wait a minute, maybe I could kind of fix this problem? When did that start to happen for you?
As my career was accelerating, I knew this is not, I don't have time. You know how they always say billionaires have a uniform because they don't have time to think it out. I came to the same conclusion. I was not a billionaire, but I came to the same conclusion. And I thought, okay, here's a look that I like. I like a fitted, at the time I had kind of a narrow waist and a big butt. And I thought, okay, I like a fitted pencil skirt and I can wear cashmere twin set. I can wear fitted polo shirt. And this will be a good look for me. And a leather jacket. Okay, so that'll be my look. Could not find the pencil skirts, know that they didn't exist. But I also knew I knew how to make pencil skirts. So I made my own pattern. I went down to a fabric store called Michael Levine in downtown LA. And I was looking around at different fabrics. And, as we talked about before, I'd worked for a converter before. So I knew I had a little bit of fiber and textile knowledge. So I started making, these skirts. And the top was smaller, so I could still buy the prestige stuff from the store. Barely fit, but get myself in there. Okay.
Figure it out. Stretch it out a little.
I'm dieting to fit into clothes now. Dieting to fit into clothes. And how stupid is that? So, but one day I was at Michael Levine. I was buying some fabric and there was this young lady standing next to me and we struck up a conversation. She said she was a seamstress. And so I just tried her out and I would pull things out of Harper's Bazaar that I had, for 10 years because I like clothes. And I'd say, okay, let's do this, but let's change this to a Peter Pan collar and this and that. I would go, there's a vintage store here called Decades, or there was another one called Cat. I can't remember exactly what it was, but I remember I found a vintage Vivienne Westwood jacket, like a hunting jacket or something. It was so right. It was so intricately made. Then I said, I'm going to stop doing clothes that just look like the clothes in these magazines. And we're going to actually make these clothes. And Kasana, who had very high, she was a great seamstress and she was up for the challenge. She said, great. So then I would go to Decades and I would buy these designer clothes that did not fit me and were never going to fit me. But a lot of them, I won't say most, a lot of them, especially like Vivienne Westwood was with the tailoring, were so well made that now my clothes, my wardrobe boosted another level. Because even without training, we can spot a great suit. We can spot, a well-made jacket or a handmade this or that. So now people are approaching me and saying, oh, what, Tracy's really fashionable. Where'd you get, little size 6
So wait,
girls.
did you take, so you had the Vivienne Westwood jacket, you brought it to your seamstress and she would basically size it up, or would she totally recreate it for you?
She would grade it up, and not that I should be changing anything that Vivienne Westwood constructs, but I knew certain
sure,
right,
but
certain silhouettes, needed to be changed for my figure or what have you. So I'd make whatever amendments.
Yeah.
Right. And besides that, we have a muslin. She makes a muslin. I try it on. Okay. The peplum doesn't look great on me. So the peplum does kind of, whatever. Right. So, so then I would take these designer I would take a vintage Halston coat, ultra suede coat dress and say, okay, I want to do this coat dress. However, this is going to be very pimpish. I want you to put this vent in the back. And she would be like, what? And we graduated to finding my own style. Instead of just recreating what they had already made, then it became Tracy's designs. And I don't sketch really well. So literally I would have to be like, this collar with a 3/4 sleeve with this, almost like fashioned by Legos. Do you remember those like paper dolls? They weren't even paper dolls. When we were little girls, you'd have
color forms, the sticky ones.
Yes.
Yeah.
Where you put things together.
Those were my favorite things ever.
Right. So then we would create a whole different line. So then once I started getting compliments, instead of just looking the part, I was creating fashion now. And I started getting compliments from people like Andrew White, who was a big agent at William Morris, and then became a stylist, and, June Ambrose, and, people like that, Kelly Catrone, whatever. Then I thought, okay, I might not look like such a schmuck. I might, actually be
onto something here.
Onto something and well turned out. So then I wanted a clothing line, but clothing lines are like, why don't I open a caviar restaurant? It's so inexpensive.
Well, I mean, at the time, I think that a lot of people that are opening today, their business, especially like an online boutique, honest to God, they just don't realize how easy it is now. They're overcomplicating it. I mean, in 2014, when I launched online, it was the most complicated system. The pictures weren't good. We weren't using our phones as cameras yet because the cameras weren't that good. I mean, it's just in 10 years, in 12 years, the speed at which we're able to have a business on the internet is insanely different. And so I think that's part of it too, is like technology has moved faster. And it's almost like you went to fashion grad school, kind of like testing this stuff out and doing it on your own. Like you developed like your thesis collection, basically, like for yourself, right? Like learning as you go. And then really COVID hit. And that's where you started to say, you know what, like, let me figure out how to make this a thing, make this a business.
Yeah. I mean, if I turn my camera, which I won't do because it has so many things plugged into it, over here is a bookcase, and it's lined with marketing, e-commerce, fashion for profit, small business start books. And these are books that I have been reading for, 15, 20 years. It was always in the back of my head, but financially, I couldn't swing it. Time-wise, I couldn't swing it. Because to your point, back in the day, you had to hire something called a webmaster who would create your website for you, right? And then you had to, and it wasn't every bank, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. You had to find a bank who would actually link to your account and accept credit card payment. And that was no easy task. And then, like Emily said, we didn't have these. Phones were flip things. They didn't have cameras on them, which meant you had to hire a photographer and models and fabric and production. And is the webmaster the one uploading the stuff on the website? Yeah. And then how do people
and
find
uploading
the
your
website?
description? Oh my gosh! I remember some of the.
I remember Google starting. How does the person find your website? Then back in the day,
people complaining about. Well, and that's the thing. People complaining about the Facebook algorithm. I'm like, girly, like we didn't have Facebook. Like even in 2020, 2015,
there was no Facebook. There was no algorithm.
No, there was no Facebook algorithm. Yeah. they were like, oh, here's a business page. I mean, I think it took Facebook maybe 10, 12 years to have business pages and realize, oh, there's money to be made here. And so in the next 10 years, it's obviously totally shifted. But I mean, the accessibility that one has these days to everything from capital to website development to high quality photos. I mean, honest to God, I feel like, even for you and I have seen the shift in such a major real time situation, but I feel like also there's a beauty in sort of learning the old school way of doing things. Like I remember in college, we learned how to hand letter things and we measure, like it was I went to art school, it's very hands-on. And now I feel like, oh yeah, I can look at anything out in the world and kind of edit it and da-da-da. So it's interesting because you did take all that time to really learn the rules, learn how things work, learn how materials drape. Like you really put the energy into it so that when you did launch in 2020, you were in a position, I mean, maybe I didn't know you then, but did you feel like you were set up to be potentially like successful based on everything you had put in to that point?
I knew I would be successful because I'm stupid. Okay.
There is something to that. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't have time to. Now, since then, I've gotten a little smart and now I'm a little worried that I might not be successful. But no, I do believe like if you put out good quality, you work hard, you work smart, maybe you're not going to become Anna Sui or something, but you'll have a good business, right? And
yeah,
I work in a very competitive field and, by the grace of God, I've survived, I've made money, I've hired people, all of that. So I wasn't quite worried about getting things off the ground. That wasn't my concern. It was getting the message out. Because clothing for me had been such a, what do I wear on this date?
Yeah.
What do I, it had been such a block for so many things. And I didn't want that to happen to any other woman. I tell this story, true story. I used to work at this, it was a store in the Cooper building, like luxury plus size clothes called Jerry's. And I remember I was like the youngest person that worked there. They were all kind of older gals. And I put a woman in the fitting room, put her clothes in. And as I was walking by, I heard her crying, not like, but like the kind of crying. And I was about to ask her, like, is everything okay? Can I get you some water? And one of the other salespeople just said to me, and she shooed me away. And then when the woman came out, she was composed. And she came out and she said, nothing fit except this top. Or the jacket, whatever it was. She's like, so I'm going to get that. And I took her to the counter and we did the transaction and she left. And I was like, it's offsetting. And I thought about, again, I'm getting emotional, how many times I cried in a fitting room because nothing fit or it didn't look on my body the way I wanted it to. Or sometimes when I would go to Lane Bryant and I would turn my back to the mirror, get dressed, whatever, and then I would turn around after I'd composed myself. And I realized that woman, who made 5 times as much as me, looked very successful and whatever, she was crying because clothes didn't fit her. Now that's not to say she's stupid, but we can send, like we say, we can send a rocket to the moon. Why can't we make clothes that fit women? And I don't know if there's like a grand poobah somewhere that decided, keep those women down, keep them depressed, keep their self-esteem low, keep them out of business, but those are all the things that simply not being able to dress the way you want, to be able to manifest the way you want. That's what that does, right? And because women, we're usually, the keystone in the family, we're raising kids and we want them to have self-esteem. How can we give what we don't have ourselves? So what are the things that we're giving to not just our daughters, but our sons? We're like kind of incomplete, not completely happy, not well-adjusted women perpetuating that. And I just thought, wait, we can change all of that by just making sundresses that fit? or jeans that fit, that
It's wild.
that's really easy.
Yeah.
My
It's
my
a really
mom,
easy solution.
right. I'll end this monologue of mine. My mom, I remember, as you get older, your high school class gets smaller because of deaths and things. So my mom got an invitation to her high school reunion, and they'd combined like a bunch of different, graduating classes because the
Yes.
classes
All the
were getting
zero ending
smaller.
people. Yeah. They do that at
Yes.
Greg's school too. Yeah.
So she was all excited, and she talked to some friends, and they were all going to get together and whatever. So she's like, "Oh, I got to get my clothes together." And my mom, is plus size, and she couldn't find anything she liked, anything that was her. She felt like she had this vibrant life in LA, and she does all these things that she wanted to share and talk about with the friends that she had left from her high
Yep.
school experience. But she didn't want to show up in a schmata, in a like polyester, mother of the bride, moo whatever. No disrespect to Ashley Stewart, she didn't, that's not who she is. So my mom opted not to go to her high school reunion and see people who she might never have an opportunity to see again, rather than present an image that wasn't her. And that hurt me to my heart. And again, I thought, how many women are doing that? How many women aren't showing up to life? How many women aren't dating because they can't find the right dress or the right whatever? How many women aren't applying for the job or getting the job? And again, as you get older, as you get bigger or whatever, in my head, I still feel like, Tracy that would do stupid things like drive to TJ with my friends and get drunk and dance all night and drive back. But I know I
Yeah.
don't look like that, right?
Yes.
But
I hear you though. Yeah.
at least with my clothing, I'm
Yeah.
able to project a bit of who I really am on the inside, right?
Yeah.
And that's what clothes are all about for me. I'm able to project a little bit of my rock and rollness and my devil make hair and all of that, but it's in cashmere. So
Yes.
that's why I created Sante Grace. My stuff isn't for everybody, but I just wanted women to have the quality and to be able to represent themselves well.
I hope you loved hearing Tracy's story, her mission, her passion, and the reason she started Sante Grace. But here's the thing, the real gold is in part 2. If you are curious about how clothing brands are actually started and produced, from fabric sourcing to finding factories in Los Angeles to managing production timelines and all the moving pieces and parts of manufacturing your own line, Tracy breaks it all down in our next conversation. That episode is audio only and available on the Boost Your Boutique podcast. All you have to do is open up Apple Podcasts or Spotify, search for Boost Your Boutique, and just hit play on part 2 of this series. Honestly, it's one of the most comprehensive, practical, and generous episodes I think we've ever aired on this podcast. If you've loved any of my other conversations with past guests, you're going to absolutely freak out about this one because most of the time it's really inspiring. This episode is incredibly tactical, and I cannot wait to share it with you. You're not going to miss it, so hopefully you'll head over there, and I'll see you on that one. Bye.